If I'm to explain my business ventures and to give you a brief overview, I will say I am a business troubleshooter. And that's a bit different to having a contract or a project or having a job. What we do, or what I especially do, involves being available, usually at a very difficult time for a company, a small business. It could involve from the Attorney General's office down to, at the moment, my current project is an upholstery firm, and I will explain what I do and why I chose that. At the moment, I have a number of business ventures. They don't conflict, but I do operate in each one of them. Now, technology's been wonderful because I can keep abreast of all of my businesses online. So in the last 30 years of my business experience, I was very fortunate. I was able to cross over and be a specialist in 7 different industries, one of which was technology. And so technology gives me a wonderful opportunity to have a lot of things available at any time, anywhere. Now, a large corporation may take me on because, for example, Family Business Australia, they're one of Australia's largest membership-based organisations, and their job is to promote and increase the business knowledge, the networking, and all the information a family-owned business would require as opposed to a corporation or a small business. Family-owned has individual problems like succession planning. Now, they had a problem and I got a call. Within 2 days I was on a plane and I had to be in Melbourne to train up as the executive chapter manager for Queensland, who had suddenly come down with a very severe illness. She had 3 months treatment and she returned to her position. I'm able to, what we call, plug in and plug out. I don't particularly have ownership. A lot of people go into a job, it's my job, my doctor. I don't use these terms. It is my contract to go in, to look at what I have to take over for a period of time. I operate and improve my situation there, and then I plug out. And I think that's very different for people to understand. Over time, people would say, oh, you hop to a lot of jobs. And it took me a while to explain, I'm not hopping, I'm contracted. And my job is to go in and come out. Nambour Upholstery is a wonderful factory, a very busy factory. And the whole business for the last 27 years was in the mind of the husband and wife team. In that case, I was called to do a very small job, but within a very short amount of time, the wife suffered a stroke. And they realised that running a business that had no systems in place, no generic operating manuals, was bound to fail. At best, they would suffer dramatically in the next 6 months. I go in and I set up business practices that anyone can plug in and take over if I have to leave. So I think the biggest thing for business nowadays is to have an underlying operating manual, and at the end of the day build it fairly generic. So what I do is I go in, I find the trouble, I plug the holes, I complete what they asked me to do and more, and then I get up and I leave. I was born into a business family, so I had come from a very large family business. Being European, my family came from poverty, and poverty has a wonderful outcome if you let it. You never want to be poor again. So we had a very strong ethic, work ethic, and as a little girl I began working for the family business at 12. So we started in high fidelity and car speakers and air conditioning. From that, the company became one of the largest companies in Australia, and they floated for $500 million some years ago. So I had an opportunity to grow up in one of the most successful car stereo businesses that then ventured into GPS, mobile technology. I ventured on my own into 7 other businesses, so I was easily adaptable to anything, because in my family they would say, go to Sydney and open up a business, or run the city shop and bring in the cash, or we've just bought in $1.7 million worth of furniture, set up a wholesale and a retail, and get to all the designers and off you go. So to other people, what would that do? They'd be in shock. To me, I thought that was normal. And so what that did for me, it gave me the ability to go in as a young person at the age of 17. I was dealing with large amounts of money. I was travelling on a plane to Melbourne and Sydney. I was able to experience human resource. I had to have staff, and I was answerable to a board. Now what that does is at an early age, it provides you with a foundation that you think that that's normal. So then you lay upon that foundation. So every business I went into, in one way, an entrepreneur is a fool, because we don't have an opportunity to fill in all the blanks, because that's what people do in a job for 30 years and they have it structured. An entrepreneur, we get up, we jump, we see an idea, we have it all up and running in a week, perhaps not very well. And that's where I became a troubleshooter, because when I set up in a business, I had what was called the ouch principle taught to me. And that's ouch, that hurt. Ouch when I was left with debts. Ouch when the landlord ripped me off. Ouch when one of my shops was built below the waterline in Brisbane and I had 3 insurance claims which destroyed my business and I had no recourse. Ouch when I had to fight for my intellectual property. Every ouch that I had, I went and I studied, I learnt, and I understood why those people came and did what they did. I had my business stolen in one of the largest and first intellectual property thefts in Australia. I was with the police in 2001 and they had no concept that intellectual property was property in its own right. So I have had the opportunity of sometimes being the first. I worked on the world's first online magazine, but I likewise found out that in Amsterdam we could have R-rated content. In Australia we could accommodate M-rated content, but in Singapore, where we were about to open, they wanted G. Now, Lee Kuan Yew ran that country, and so did the ongoing people that ran that country, were very strict on the quality of the content and the level of speech or images that we were allowed to release. So online magazines, I was right there at the forefront. So I've had this wonderful opportunity that I just jump straight in as soon as something's open, and other people wait. So I'm a troubleshooter because I found trouble. I wish that my family had allowed me to go to university. In fact, I wanted to be a journalist and go to uni. And I'm sitting here today because I come to the university and I feel a part of me missing. I wish that not all of my experience had been experience. I would have loved to have had some foundational training. It was because of the ouch principle that I went and found and sought my own training, and I've done lots of component training. But I could not at that stage, being already in the workforce and being of that age, I didn't have time to become a mature student. So I missed that great window of opportunity. Now at uni, I think that there needs to be this wonderful mix-up of the foundational training and then get the people in that have real experience. Get them to come in and tease apart some serious issues and let the people work with them. And that's what I'm desperately, I would love to have that as my main message. I wish and hope to one day go back to uni, because I think that's missing in my life. And it's something I've wrestled with. I wish I had learnt some of the foundational issues without having to have 4 years to recover from terrible business decisions, because I learnt from a family business and they learnt from ouch. You know, being a business troubleshooter and an entrepreneur, you get to overcome a lot of things. I have no fear that next month I have no idea what I'll be doing. And that's liberating and a little bit scary, but I can never get bored. I think most people will say, what are you up to now? But that's my choice. But there is a trade-off. For my excitement and the unknown, I have to have a pretty good plan of how we financially support ourselves, because you don't know where you're going to be. And being an entrepreneur, you don't know sometimes if it's going to work or not. There have been events. We had a golf event at Sunshine Coast a couple of years ago. The GFC and huge floods and bad weather, we had to call it quits. Now we lost $300,000 and 1 year of our investment and our income. Now that will take us probably another year to overcome. But we don't worry about it. We get up and we move on. And I think that's the most wonderful and exciting part, that we are not fearful to keep trying. And we don't consider it shameful. We don't consider it a huge big loss and we're just going to sit there. It will knock us, but not knock us down. I have a gorgeous girlfriend in Malaysia and she says, you're the bouncer backers. And that's a nickname that we like. We are the bouncer backers. And that's what I love. In 2000, I was asked by the Courier Mail, and they asked, I was one of the top in my field, along with Dick Smith and another woman from AXA, the big finance company at the time. They asked me about leadership, and I said, I really think the new leader needs to be, and I say the same thing, interestingly enough, 14 years later, actually. I think leaders need to be aware of everybody around them, that their goals and their life and their desire is not more important than every other person around them. I think a leader needs to be able to lead very clearly. They need to have such goals and put the hours and the time in that when they know, they can share the vision with all the others. But if they don't, they give miscommunication and mixed messages, I should say. And then you feel people, they become unsteady and unstable. And I think the great thing about business is if we're going to be good leaders, we are among them, but we lead. We lead by example. We lead our own lives, even our personal lives, to the best of our abilities, a sense of excellence. We are able to take them to that level, but we also show that with that risk comes a lot of preparation, that we're not foolish, because we're dealing with their futures and their careers and their life choices. And if people choose to come along with a team or a group, they want a leader to lead them very, very firmly and give them some stability in their life, I think.